Yes, absolutely. It's the most exciting. We've been lucky enough to do this for 25 years. But let's all telescope out for a second. The history of humanity has been pretty miserable. For 99% of humanity, most humans in their lifetime did not see a single invention. The cycle time on invention was slower than the life was long. And yet, we're living through these massive, earth-shattering inventions that build on one another. And AI could not exist without the internet. Mobile couldn't have existed without the internet. AI could not have existed without the cloud, because these are information data gathering devices. These are why we have the data. The cloud is what makes the data frictionless. That's what runs the AI machine. In 2015, I was at a dinner with Bill Gates, and he said, and Bill's an optimist on humanity. Read his annual letters at the end of every year, the Gates annual letter, and it will really pump you up about all that we do, because it's really been entrepreneurs and invention that has moved humanity forward. Governments create the conditions to allow innovation to occur, but it's founders and funders working in that system that actually are doing the innovation. And so when I think about AI, what Gates said at that dinner is, he said, humans make decisions with limited information, right? We gather, and for most of humanity, it was a single person's data that they held in their head and the single processing power of your brain. And you gathered it over your lifetime, and then you died, and we started all over again. Now we're collecting and maintaining all the data, all the words ever spoken by all of humanity, and we're building supercomputers large enough to augment human intelligence. So this is not like, we're not going to talk about AI in 5 years any differently than we don't talk about internet companies anymore or mobile companies anymore. Augmented intelligence is going to be the very fabric of everything, of all businesses. If you are not leveraging the power of machines to help humans make better decisions today, right? I think about where ChatGPT is today, like it feels like it's a 10x improvement. But if you talk to Sam, or you talk to Reid Hoffman, or you talk to the folks at DeepMind, this is the beginning of the beginning. For the rest of your careers, this is what we're going to be investing against. This is the moment we've all waited for, because this is the moment that has maximum leverage for humanity, for all societies. So we live on a globe today where the average human conditions across the globe have never been better. Children surviving childbirth, length of lives lived, average GDP, per human on the planet, etc. And I think this is going to drive us all forward. Yes, there will be questions we have to answer, like purpose, productivity. If we can all do so much more with less, where will people derive purpose, right?
What happens to jobs? What happens to jobs? And we're already seeing that. You're talking about that. What happens to jobs if this really becomes real?
And I think I know Jake is talking about this on the pod. What I would say is, first, every wave of dislocation, starting with the Industrial Revolution, right? Moving from hunter-gatherer to agrarian to Industrial Revolution to information age, we've always panicked about what's going to happen to jobs. But to Jason's point, there's so much left to do. The bigger thing is the nature of the jobs to be done. Post-World War II, we had a lot of people who had to rebuild the planet in a very industrial, manufacturing intensive way. Most of those jobs will disappear. And so we're going to have different types of jobs. Jake, why don't you roll with it from there?
Well, the good news, I think, is if you embrace this technology in the first inning, baseball metaphor, kind of like this is year one of the App Store, is how to think about it. You're not too late, just because you don't work at OpenAI and you haven't been doing this for 5 years. This is kind of like Steve Jobs holds up the first iPhone, and then 6 months later, he released the App Store. That's kind of where we're at right now. So your timing is perfect if you use it. But I remember when I came into the industry, and I used to do network engineering, and I would set up computers and networks for companies in IT. There were some boomers who didn't want a PC on their desk. This is my secretary. Your secretary has one, but you can have one too, and you have this Microsoft Office, and you can do all these spreadsheets and documents and like an email, or just print it out for me. Those people refuse to move on with the paradigm. And there's a saying in psychology about paradigms. Paradigms don't die, people do. So there'll be a group of people who do not embrace this technology, and they will die, and then all that will be left is people who do embrace it. The amazing thing is, 2 or 3 of the hardest jobs in the world where we are the most constrained are data science and developers and coders. With this new technology, English, raise your hand if you're speaking. Great, congratulations, you're all developers. In the coming months, I didn't say years, I said months, you will be talking to a computer and it'll be writing code for you, and you will be a developer. It's now, but how many people here are not developers that are writing code in ChatGPT? So that's kind of the mind-blowing part. The idea of coding and programming is something other than English will seem silly in a couple of years. Of course, you just talk to the computer and tell it in English what you want. Why would you write code? Just like the idea that when I was coming up in the industry, we would open the computer up and we would put in a network interface card, a NIC card, and we would put in extra memory chips, and we'd take out the hard drive and put in a bigger one, and then you filled it up. Like, all of that got abstracted away. And then data science, I have the ChatGPT feature now. I don't know if anybody else is in the plugins or whatever, but you can upload a CSV file, any spreadsheet or whatever. And then you just tell me about this file. Well, it has these columns, and those are zip codes, and the houses and prices, and how many rooms there are and when it was sold. And then you say, what trends can you tell me about this? And it analyzes it and tells you the trends. And then you say, can you put those in graphs? And it puts it in graphs. And I was giving a talk to one of the Rosewood Hotel groups over here. We had 150 executives, this was just last week, and I was showing them some of the stuff. And I said, is anybody here on the management team the data scientist? And they all pointed, like, Justin's the data scientist. And I showed it to Justin. How many of these requests do you have from other people in the room? It's like months. I was like, they can all do it themselves now. And everybody's like, oh, poor Justin. I said, no. Now Justin does not have to have an annoying conversation with you about the most basic data stuff. You can come to him with your questions that are now the questions he's asking. And you can have a really high-level discussion with you about your data. We don't know what these things are going to be able to teach us. When we put them on these huge data sets, just being able to set up these auto GPTs. And the auto GPTs is really mind-blowing. You said to the GPT, you're a salesperson, you're selling this product, go ahead and every day look for new customers and send them a welcome email and ask them to book a demo. And you're going to set this persona loose, and you're just going to watch it work, and then say, if people tell you they're not interested, don't try to sell that person, and ask them, and then the salesperson asks you, working for them. They're all going to be digital. It's going to get weird, but it's going to be awesome.
What's going to happen to the